All right, welcome to this week's market report. This week we are going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the escalation addendum,
Dun, 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 dun.
which is critical for buyers in this market.
Love a good escalation addendum.
Yes. So welcome to this week's market report. If you want to skip straight ahead and go into the numbers and the graphs, go ahead and go back to the end of this video or go forward to the end of this video and skip all this.
Back to the future.
Back to the future, that's right. So the escalation addendum, what is it? Escalation addendum is an addendum added to a sales contract. And the way that it works, it has three parts. It has the initial asking or offer price. It has an escalation amount. So for example, if it's a $300,000 offer, you may do a $3,000 escalation amount.
Like increments.
Yes, increments. And it has a capped price. So if your maximum offer is $350,000, that would be your cap. Mm-hmm. And the way that it works is you put your offer in of say $300,000. Any offer that beats that $300,000 offer is automatically escalated by your addendum by $3,000 up to that cap, which is $350,000. So this allows buyers to compete in a bidding war in a situation where a seller's agent has called for best and final and they're not going to do any kind of countering. You can go in with an escalation addendum and have those escalations occur. It's kind of like bidding on eBay.
Kind of like eBay bids, right?
Yeah.
Which is great.
So there's good about it, there's bad about it, and there's actually some ugly about it. And it's from the buyer side and the seller side. So we're going to kind of go through that with you. Kelly's going to handle the buyer side and I'll talk the seller side. So what's the good from the buyer side?
So the good from the buyer side is that you can, I'm reading this right now. I'm sorry, I just recovered from COVID, so sorry.
We're working on COVID brain.
Let's see if I can read. It allows us to escalate an offer without overpaying. So when you're nervous about it, it's like, I really, really want it. I would pay this, but I don't want to have to. That's what it's good for. It's pretty basic.
So how do you know you're not overpaying? How do you know what's the protection in that clause that a buyer has that knows that they're just not going to automatically escalate?
You can maintain your appraisal.
You can maintain your appraisal, that's right. And they have to provide you with a sales contract.
Yeah, not only do they have to put the terms in that contract, but they have to provide the actual contract that was signed by those potential buyers and everything else. So they have to have proof. They can't just say it.
Yeah, they have to provide the absolute proof that caused the escalation. Mm-hmm. So from the buyer's perspective, that's huge because you can win an offer without paying the max price that you would be willing to pay.
Huge safety nets. Thanks for helping me through that.
Yeah, safety.
Give us the good for the sellers, honey.
So for the seller side, the good for the seller side is in a multiple offer situation, the escalations allow you to kind of see what your sales price is going to be. But in a negotiation, it's not just sales price that's important. It's also terms. Are they allowing inspections, or are they requesting inspections? Do they have appraisal contingencies? How's their lender? Are they strong borrowers? What's their down payment? You get to get a clear picture of all the buyers and the price point you can get from those buyers. And then you can choose based on best term and best price. So
not only that, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I actually have something that came from my own brain just then. It is that whenever they're submitting their offer, they're submitting the pre-approval. And a good pre-approval is not just going to show the initial offer price they're pre-approved for, but you, the seller, get to know, hey, I know they're pre-approved this escalated price.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a good thing. You get that insight. You
that's
don't
right.
Wonder.
That's right. So that's the good of it, which your point leads us to the bad. So from the buyer's perspective, what could be the bad?
Okay. So it's risky, right? Because I could submit this offer with the escalation, with the pre-approval, showing that I'm pre-approved to that escalated price, and the seller could just say, let me just counter at their maximum price.
Yep.
Get rid of the escalation, and I'm just going to do a counter offer. I don't want to mess around with this. So that's a risk.
Yeah, they could counter up to that. So in our scenario, the seller's agent could just counter to the 350. So that does expose you putting your cards on the table. Yeah. From a seller's perspective, if you counter at that 350, you kind of lose your leverage, because if you had a contract that actually escalated this to the 350, then you would use that escalation clause. You would have the sales contract to do it. So if you simply counter at the 350, the buyer knows that you don't have the leverage on that. So from a seller's perspective, from buyer and seller's perspective, it can kind of expose your hand. Mm-hmm. So that's the bad of it.
Yeah.
I had another point on there for the sellers.
I promise he doesn't have COVID.
I had to cheat. Hold on. Oh, yes. Okay, so here's the other. Let me cut this part out. So The other thing is, if as a seller's agent, which we don't agree with what I'm about to say, but as a seller's agent, if you don't allow escalation clauses, if you only call for best and final offers, if a buyer was willing and able to pay $350 for this property and you're not taking escalation clauses, that buyer might write an offer for $350.
Wasn't this our ugly?
We're going to go into the ugly. This is going to translate. I might be blurring the lines.
I think you're blurring the lines.
I'm blurring the lines, as always. So what I mean by that is, okay, let's say you have 3 offers coming in. One's willing to pay $325, one's willing to pay $335, and one's willing to pay $350, and they have a $3,000 escalation. Well, the one willing to pay $350 without the escalation may write an offer for $350. So you just got $350 for the property. But if they came in with an escalation clause, you only got $338 because the next highest offer was $335.
I do worry here that you're getting so wordy that people might be glazing over into it.
Okay.
So let's just
Okay.
let's go into the ugly, because this goes into the glazed over.
Yes.
So the ugly is,
Yes, the ugly is.
not all agents know how to effectively use an escalation addendum. They're scared of it. They're intimidated by it. And with all those words, I get why. Maybe it was just me, but
You kind of started daydreaming?
yeah,
Okay.
I did a little bit.
Yes.
So let's say you're the seller,
Okay.
and your agent says, and this happens. Yeah, I don't recommend you accepting any offers with escalation addendums.
Yes.
Do you agree? And you seller say,
I would say, yeah, I don't want to leave any money on the
yeah,
table.
then I'm going to put that in the details. The agent notes, no escalation addendums.
Yep.
That's so stupid. Don't do that. There's nothing intimidating by it. It's easy. It's wonderful. It's a beautiful tool. Get an agent who knows how to use it for both buyer and seller.
Yes.
Don't be scared of these.
Yeah, because if you do that, if you don't use escalation addendums and you go into a multiple offer situation, there will be buyers that once it starts going into multiple offers will not write an offer because they're not going to overpay for a property.
Mm-hmm.
So you will lose some of the competition. So
as soon as our buyers, if we tell them, okay, they're not going to allow escalations, they're like, nope, let's just wait and see what happens. And if it's, we'll offer on something else. If it's still here, we'll circle back. So you're counting out a lot of buyers.
Yeah, so we have a unique perspective because we work a lot with both buyers and sellers. So we see how buyers are responding to things and we see how sellers respond to things. So that's how we can give you both these perspectives. So
a big note.
Yes.
An escalation addendum should always have a deadline attached to it.
Yes.
Why?
From the buyer's perspective.
From the buyer's perspective.
Yes.
Oh, trust. If we're the seller's agent,
And
we
no
are
deadline.
all over it when there's not a deadline.
Yes. So
And here's why.
so as a seller's agent, I get an escalation addendum. I'm calling every buyer that's come through that property and I'm letting them know we have multiple offers and I'm shopping that to try to get
that offer.
You're shopping it to work for your seller to get that number up as high as possible. So from the buyer's perspective, you want to have a deadline so that the seller doesn't have
shop
time
the
to shop
offer.
it. So
How dare they shop our offer?
well, we have to serve our client.
I mean, come on,
Yeah,
right?
you got to get it.
Otherwise, if we're the seller's agent, it's boiler room into house.
This is why we don't represent buyers and sellers on the same transaction. We
don't.
House divided. Okay, so yes. So this is a great tool. It really is. It has to be used correctly. It's a good tool for buyers and sellers. We highly recommend using it, especially in this market of multiple offers. And do you have any other points?
No, I think we nailed it.
I think we nailed it. I think we
love
confused the heck
escalations.
out of it. But I think we nailed it. So if you have any questions, please let us know. And if you need more details, we're happy to go over that with you.
Yeah, he'll give you a lot of details.
Oh, I love the details. All right. Okay, so let's get to the numbers and see what's going on. Oh, before we do that, what's the mood of the month? You've been out. You don't know what the mood is.
Can I guess?
Yes.
I had a lot of fever dreams. And it felt like there was this one where I had this big wave that hit me and it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Am I right?
It's somewhat, yeah. So the mood of the market is if you could imagine somebody pulling their hair out and like that.
That's
would
the
be,
emoji.
Yeah, that would be the emoji. So the market's kind of chaotic right now. It's multiple offers. Things are flying off the shelf. So
It was a good week to spend in bed.
it's a good week to spend in bed. Yes.
Thank you for letting me back down in the rest of the house.
All right, let's get to the numbers. Again, if you have any questions, please let us know. Okay?
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so now that you have a completely chaotic understanding of what an escalation clause or an escalation addendum is and how that works, let's get into the actual market stats. So as we mentioned in the previous part of this video, the feeling of the market is kind of chaotic. The feeling is that buyers are competing again, multiple offers, that we're seeing properties go off the market as before we're even able to get buyers in to see them. Everything's just moving really, really quickly. But the good news is when we look at the stats here, you're going to see that there's actually a good sign that this is turning into a healthy market, and hopefully it'll be a healthy spring market. So let's just get to the graphs and let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so you can see buyer activity is the orange line and inventory is the blue line. And you can see that inventory in the last 7 days increased again. So inventory over the last several weeks, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, last 6 weeks, inventory has been a steady increase. And buyer activity has also been a steady increase. But what's happened is this inventory, because the last 2 increases, has come pretty even with buyer activity. So that brings us into a situation where we're still in a seller's market, but it's not a crazy, crazy seller's market. So if this trend continues, if the inventory continues to tick up along, to the level of the buyer activity, then the activity of the market's going to be stronger, but the competition for each property will be a little bit more neutral. Buyers may not be dealing with as many multiple offers as we get into the spring. That's if this trend continues. Now, if we see a huge uptick in buyer activity, which we are kind of expecting, and there's not a matching uptick in inventory, then we'll be right back into that seller's market. But over the last 2 weeks, if you look over here into the seller's market versus the buyer's market, you can see last week we were right here. Again, this is about a neutral market. And then this week we're right here. So the last 2 weeks, based on numbers, we've been in a fairly neutral market. But the feel in the market is that the properties are going off under contract really quickly. And so as I dug into this, what we're finding is, again, just like it was through the winter when we were actually in a buyer's market, the properties that are priced appropriately and are in good condition and are hitting the market, those are getting a lot of attention, and a lot of buyers are going to those. And those are the ones getting multiple offers. The ones that are maybe a little bit overpriced, they're sitting for a week or two. Because the buyers are all going and competing for the great ones that are coming on the market each week. And then as they lose out on those, they go back and they buy the previous ones. So as long as that inventory keeps up with buyer demand, then we'll probably see this start to even out, where there won't be so many situations with multiple offers, or if there still are, buyers will still have opportunities. They'll just have to go look at properties that maybe didn't go as quickly, that weren't the hot new item. So all in all, it's a fairly healthy market. It's a good time for buyers to try to still get in before the chaos of spring begins. And for the sellers, the inventory is starting to uptick a little bit, but there are still buyers out there. So if you're considering selling, we know the market's good right now. Go ahead and come on the market now. Don't wait until spring. All right, I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, please feel free to let us know. And if you have any questions on the escalation addendum, please feel free to, again, let us know. And we will see you on next week's video. Have a great day.